Crash fans were recently given some incredible news, and that incredible news was the fact that the original Crash Bandicoots, Crash Bandicoot 1, 2 and 3, will be remastered. So in this video I want to look at why the original 3 Crash Bandicoot games are still incredible games and why they are still awesome games. And I'm just going to tell you that I first played Crash Bandicoot in the year 1998, and that was the year in which Warped was released, the third Crash Bandicoot. But I played Crash Bandicoot 1, and as soon as I did play Crash Bandicoot 1, I was addicted and glued to this game. I played all of the Naughty Dog games, and I did play Crash Bash, and of course I did play Raptor Cortex. I didn't play Twinsanity, and I didn't play the Crash the Titan games, and I'm kind of really glad that I didn't play the Crash the Titan games. I didn't really like the remodeling of certain characters, and I didn't like the approach that they'd done for certain characters either. I also felt that I lost interest in Crash Bandicoot after Naughty Dog left, so that was one of the reasons why I didn't play Twinsanity or Crash of the Titans. I know that Eurocom done Crash Bash, and I know another company done Raptor Cortex, but I was not interested in playing Twinsanity or Crash the Titans. But in this video, I want to just talk about why the original 3 games are still incredible games. Only the last few years, actually, I got a chance to replay these games, and I still play Crash Team Racing frequently. I played that a lot in college, and that gameplay in that game is so smooth and it's so beautiful to control the carts. But I must say, I got a chance to buy the game on the the PlayStation Store, and I was really surprised at how the gameplay is really just hasn't aged a bit. I just want to look at reasons why Crash Bandicoot is still so playable today. So number one is I think that the gameplay is simple but challenging, as in the gameplay mechanics are very straightforward. In the first Crash Bandicoot, you had, of course, a jump button and you had 2 spin buttons, and of course you used a D-pad to move, and that was that. It was really simple. As soon as you hold the controls, you know what you're doing. But in that sense, the game was still very challenging because it moved at a thunderous pace, which was incredible at the time, because this game was released in 1996, the first game. One of the first kind of 3D platforming games. And this game just had the same pacing that was seen in one of those 2D platform games, as in it was thunderous. The game was constantly challenging. You're constantly jumping over obstacles, you're constantly taking on enemies. There was a tremendous amount of timing, there was a tremendous amount of keeping up with the paces. And also for a kid's game, I mean, it was incredibly challenging. You only had 1 hit point if you didn't have a Aku mask. And that was always kind of made it more challenging. These games are still really playable, and it will still challenge you, even though you will probably find them easier today because you've played them. But the fun factor is very much intact, as is the absolute gameplay. The graphics in this game were also great. These games had almost this wonderful cartoonish engine, and it was wonderful to look at. It almost felt like a Saturday morning cartoon, as in it just had that look. The colors really popped out. There was a wonderful sense of texture. There was wonderful background details. From N Sandy Beach, where you first start off, the first level in Crash Bandicoot is incredibly detailed. The crab enemies, the tribal statues that you have to jump over or that were stood on the sides, the palm trees, the sand itself, the crates, all incredibly detailed, wonderfully designed. And I love the way, like in Crash Bandicoot, they explore different types of environments. Like in Crash Bandicoot, while Crash Bandicoot 1, it was very much kind of jungle-like beats and ruins. There was also kind of an industrial type feel to it, and almost there was labs as well. All of it was absolutely incredible to look at, visually stunning. And Crash Bandicoot 2, it follows up with that. It follows up with more kind of creative level design, where you're in the kind of your North Pole, or you're going through a sewers, or you're in space. All of it was wonderfully designed with loads of detail and a wonderful colour palette. And of course, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped expands in this further the idea of a time travel type storyline, which allows the game to go back in time and explore different designs, as in going to back to prehistoric times with dinosaurs, or medieval times, or Egypt, and even space itself. When you're facing Dr. Engine, all of it was really cool, great designs, and this game is still wonderful to look at. Moving on from that, I want to talk about the boss battles. Now, the boss battles in these games were so much fun, and they were just so enjoyable to play through. Starting from the very first boss that you do face is Papu, a very simple boss battle, but it's one you will never forget. The simple idea of jumping over his witch doctor stick, and of course jumping over his head 3 times. Very simple but very satisfying fight. To the fight with Ripperoo, in which you trigger the dynamite. Wonderful as well. And I loved the fight at the very end of the first Crash Bandicoot. It was just perfect. It had this wonderful set piece to it. So the base of the island, or Dr. Neo Cortex's lab, is in flames, and you're on top of a blimp. And Dr. Neo Cortex is, of course, on almost a hoverboard-like platform, and he himself is shooting off lasers at you, and you have to spin the green laser beams back at him. And it's just a wonderful set piece, and it was one of my favourite set pieces of quite a few platforming games. Of course, Crash Bandicoot 2 followed this up as well with some more incredible boss battles. Crash Bandicoot 2 had this great one with Tiny Tiger. Very, very simple, but it had this really intense feel to it. So you're on this type of platform and Tiny Tiger is jumping from one platform to another, trying to pound you. And as the fight goes on, the platforms slowly drop. If Tiny lands on one of the platforms that drops, he loses a life. But then again, after this, you yourself could lose a life. So there is this incredible little tension, almost nerve-wracking moment where you must get to a safe platform. Very simple mechanics, but very exciting, and just a wonderful, exciting pacing to a great boss battle. And of course, Dr. Engine was also a great boss battle. I loved his facing him, where he used kind of the Whopper fruits as a weapon, which was also incredible. It was a fight in which he had a lot of variety in terms of his weapons. He kind of fought in this mechanical robot, and it was just so much fun to face off against him. Crash Bandicoot Warped had some wonderful boss battles, and which was great about this game is that the boss battles, which were wonderful characters in their own right, chance to see them as characters. So you got little cutscenes where you'd hear Tiny Tiger talk to you, or you'd hear Dingo Doll talk to you, and it was just great because you kind of get a sense of their character and what they are like as in terms of persona. And I loved the second fight you face off against Tiny Tiger in Crash Bandicoot Warped, and he himself is the first boss battle, and you're in a gladiator pit against him, and he releases lions against you, and it's just a fun boss battle. And of course, Dingo Doll features as the second boss battle, and he himself has this flamethrower, and you're kind of in the North Pole, and it's a great one because you want to avoid this flamethrower whilst trying to find your way to attack him, and it's a great boss battle. And of course, the final boss in that game is also great because in this game, Aku Aku's evil brother Uka Uka is released, and Uka Uka has been revealed to be kind of Dr. Neo Cortex's main boss, his main leader. So you see this wonderful fight between Aku Aku and Uka Uka during this boss fight, and then you see this battle between Crash and Cortex, and it's really cool to seeing the two sides face off each other in this battle. A true version of good versus evil. An absolutely great boss battle. These games really knew how to make some really memorable and fun boss battles. I'm going to talk about the characters in the game. I think the characters were all incredible. They all were wonderfully designed. Crash Bandicoot's character is known for just being this really humble type character, as in he's just a type of character that you don't really know a lot about him, but he's the type of character who's really helpful and he's really willing to help people. He doesn't talk a lot. He's just this type of character who's he's satisfied with the simple things, and you kind of see that in his kind of body language, where you see him like playing around with his yo-yo or something simple like that. He's just an incredibly fun character, and he's an incredibly brave character as well. Aku Aku is also a great character. He's filled with this type of wisdom about him, and he plays almost a kind of like a father-like figure to Crash Bandicoot, and of course Coco Bandicoot, who was introduced in Crash Bandicoot 2 and who becomes a playable character in Crash Bandicoot 3, and very different character to Crash Bandicoot. And she's very much the smarter of the two of them, and she herself is a very different character to play as, and she's a really strong female character, and she's a great character for the series. I will have to mention Dr. Neo Cortex. He's also a wonderful character and one of the best villain characters of the franchise. And it's great because he himself is always being a recurring villain, and I'm glad he is a recurring villain. He's the baddie in the three main games, and with of course Uka Uka, and he plays off Crash Bandicoot really well. He's a real manipulator of Crash, and he's really funny and witty character. And I must praise Clance Brown for his performance, because Clance Brown really enhances his character. Now, Clance Brown didn't play Cortex in the first game. He played him from 2 to Raptor Cortex. So he played him for quite a bit, and he himself gave so much to the character. He also plays the role of Uka Uka, Clance Brown does. And it's wonderful seeing him play both characters. And the introduction to Crash Bandicoot Warped is also wonderful, because you see him play this kind of bumbling, kind of wimpy character like Dr. Neo Cortex, and then you kind of see this powerhouse type character like Uka Uka, this really powerful and terrifying type villain. And it's just wonderful seeing him really stretch his acting abilities. So I want to talk about the replay value of these games, and I gotta say, there was so much replay in these games. There was so much fun to be had in these games. They were incredibly addictive. The first Crash Bandicoot was definitely the longest of the three. There's quite a lot in terms of length to it, and it was an incredibly challenging game, and it's the type of game you will definitely go back and play, and mainly because you'll probably go back and play it because you want to perfect it more, as in you want to go back and you want to get all the crates in each level, and that adds so much to the replay value of the game. And of course, Crash Bandicoot 2 introduced the idea of receiving gems, so that added so much replay value to the game. You could do this the first time, of course. You could get a crystal and a gem during your first playthrough and level, but it's slightly challenging. So often in cases, the gamer will go back and he or she will go for all the crates and hope to get the gem at the very end of the level. But there's often cases where the gem wasn't that easy to find. There was also trickier ways to get the gem. There was some cases where you would have to go through the level without dying, and then the gem would appear, and of course it would send you to a different checkpoint in which you had to go through this difficult session of the game in order to earn this gem. And it was really fun, and it added so much to the game, because Crash Bandicoot 2 of course had an alternative ending if you got all the gems, which was fantastic. And I think there was also another warp room once you get all the gems. Crash Bandicoot Warped, it added to that, as in you could get time relics, as in if you go back, once you finish the level the first time, you'll have an option to go back again and go through the level as fast as possible in order to get the perfect time, in order to get this kind of time relic. And of course there was also the gem challenge, and there was the main crystal challenge. And that added a lot of replay value. And of course, if you got all the gems and you got more relics, the time relics, this itself opened up another warp room. So there was a lot to do in these games. And of course, once you get that to 100%, you of course can face off against Cortex again, and you'll get a different alternate ending. So there was so much gameplay in these games, and I must praise them for actually creating a game with so much replay value. It was incredibly clever for its time back in '98 to add such little features and bring the gamers back to the game once they actually finish all the main levels, all the levels in the main warp rooms. I must praise Naughty Dog for really adding so much to their game, packing it with so much great little details. That's just how I feel about the Crash Bandicoot series. Really voice your opinion on how do you think about the Crash Bandicoot series. And how excited are you guys about the idea of these three masterpieces, these three little gems coming back to being remastered? How do you guys feel about that? And really, what is your favorite memory of Crash Bandicoot? And tell me, what is your favorite Crash Bandicoot out of the first three, or out of any of the Crash Bandicoots that was released? Really feed the comment section. I'll try and answer as much of them as possible. If you like this video and if you've played kind of 90s nostalgia games, platform games, you should check out my video that I done on Spyro. The video is why Spyro is still awesome. So that's the title of the video. If you want to check that out, I'll put the link on the description section of this video. So you should check that out. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel if you like what you see.